Barbarian. And let's take a Barbarian class overview. I want to do it this way. So, everything we have on the class overview of the Barbarian. Melee, his resource is Fury. This is, again, they don't have mana now. You know, they have the like spender builder system, and each class has its own resource, just like Diablo 3 had. Physical damage, class skill groups, basic, core defense, brawling, weapon mastery, and ultimate. So those are, I guess, when you're the different kinds of skills that you can grab. Class skill examples: Whirlwind, Leap, Charge, Warcry, Hammer of the Ancients. Unique class mechanics: equip 4 different weapons at once. So that's every class now has its own unique mechanic. So the arsenal system is the Barbarians. And can use 1/2-handed slashing weapons, 1 2-handed bludgeoning weapons, and 2-handed weapons. The Barbarian skill overview, is this all right below, or this looks different from what we just... Okay, we'll just go here. Bash. So generate 10 fury. So again, the generator spender. Bash is your generator. Requires a bludgeoning weapon. Bash the enemy, dealing 31% damage. After bashing enemy 4 times, your next bash will stun point for 1.25 seconds. This increases to 2 seconds if using a 2-handed weapon. Damaging a stunned enemy with bash grants you a 5% base life as fortify. Double this amount when using a 2-handed weapon. And then choose one combat bash. After currently striking 4 times using a 2-handed weapon, your next score will overpower. More stuff to look into. Damaging a stunned enemy with bash generates an additional 3 fury or 4 fury if using a 2-handed weapon. And remember, fury is the resource. Flay, this also generates, and this is a slashing weapon. Flay the enemy, dealing 5% damage, inflicts 38% bleed damage over 5 seconds. This one we have a preview. So there you can see there's the flaying. And you can see building that. When Flay deals direct damage to an enemy, they take 10 times 10% increased bleeding damage for the next 3 seconds. That's enhanced Flay. And then choose one combat Flay. When Flay deals direct damage, you gain 1% damage reduction and 4 thorns, which is damage back to them for 3 seconds. This stacks up to 5 times. Or Flay has a 10% chance to make the enemy vulnerable for 2 seconds. Double this chance when using a 2-handed weapon. A lot of things to learn. You know, what's vulnerable, what's overpower, all that stuff. A lot of procs. And this is something that I do think is a little annoying, personally. Again, some people like this, and I am not saying I am right in this capacity whatsoever. I just think there is a lot of if this, then this, then this, then this. And it becomes hard to... slightly hard to understand, and also so convoluted that you're not like even seeing what's happening, just kind of things like that. Thank you, Game Boy. Like here you have Flay and you deal 5% damage, which is confusing to me because I'm like, 5% damage of what? You only deal 5% of your weapon damage? Or maybe it's just of attack power. But then it inflicts 38% bleeding damage. So, okay, the weapon you're holding, you only deal 5% of that. Or is it 5% of their health? But then 38% bleed damage. But then, when Flay deals direct damage, which I have a question of what direct damage is, they take 10 times 10% increased bleeding damage. So is that increasing this? So is it 380% bleeding damage now? And then there's a 10% chance to make them vulnerable for 2 seconds. Which vulnerable is a different state we'll have to look at. Or when Flay deals direct damage, again, not sure exactly what that means compared to just regular damage, you gain 1% damage reduction and 4 thorns. This stacks up to 5 times, so I guess you're just constantly hitting with Flay, and then you're just having 5% damage reduction and 20 thorns. But it just feels a little... Yeah, I mean, I'm just too old. Direct damage is not damage over time. So it's when you hit, I guess, not the bleed further. Get him, Darcy. Yeah. So, but the way these are working is essentially, and since we don't have a skill tree, I'll just pull up paint. You have your like main hub, and then it goes off and it has, you know, your skills like this. So this would be like Flay. You know, this would be like Bash. And then this is Enhanced Flay. And then these are the other ones, right? This is how the skill tree works. So if you're wondering what the Enhanced Bash is and all of that stuff, it works like this. So you put a point in Flay, and you can go like 1 to 5 points or whatever. And then you can put a point here, or a point here if you want to enhance it, and then combat or battle Flay. So that's what we're talking about when we say like Bash, then Enhanced Bash, and then choose one for the one of the ones that comes off of that. Frenzy. Generate 5 Fury. Physical damage, requires dual wield. Unleash a rapid fury of blows, dealing 21% damage with each pair of hits. So I'm really curious why all of these things are dealing percentage of the weapon base. If Frenzy hits an enemy, its attack speed is increased by 20% for 3 seconds, up to 60%. But like so low. But maybe this is just level 1 and then it goes up every level. That's my guess. So this is very similar to like Diablo 2 kind of, where you're just gaining that. You don't gain faster run walk, but it's just your attack speed's increased. While Frenzy is granting plus 60% bonus attack speed, it also generates 1 additional Fury. So that's just, okay, you can generate more Fury faster. And then you gain times 8% damage reduction for each stack of Frenzy you currently have. Why is it X 8%? Wouldn't it just be 8% for each stack? Or is this saying if you already have 5? No, that wouldn't make sense. Just 8% for each stack. Okay. Yeah, because that would make sense. So, I mean, 24% damage reduction, that seems OP as can get. Just run around with Frenzy.
Feel free to use beg sub to someone in chat for Xmas gift smiley face.
No, we're not going like that, Thanatos. Wait. While berserking, your other skills gain 5% attack speed for each stack of Frenzy you have. Yeah, I feel like Combat Frenzy. I mean, 24% damage reduction is huge. And if you can get something that increases the number of Frenzy charges you have, I feel like a Frenzy Barb is just going to be super OP. Lunging Strike. Generate Fury. Lunge forward and strike an enemy for 31% damage. Oh, also we do have Frenzy Preview. Very simple. Deals 30% increased damage and heals you for 2% maximum life when it damages a healthy enemy. Again, oh, this is status effects. Oh, that'll be really good to get into. Maybe we should go to status effects really fast. Barrier. Barrier absorbs damage from all sources. Wow. Up to a specified amount. Berserk grants 25% increased damage and 30% increased move speed. This effect lasts 5 seconds. Chilled have reduced movement speed. Repeatedly chilling enemy will freeze it. Crackling energy periodically damages nearby enemies when picked up. Dazed enemies cannot attack or use skills, but are still able to move. Fortified characters take 10% reduced damage. You become fortified when you have more fortify than current life. Okay. Frozen enemies cannot move or attack. Enemies are frozen by repeatedly chilling them. Healthy characters have more than 20% of their life. Or 80%. 20%. 80% of their life. Immune characters cannot be damaged and all negative effects are removed and prevented. Well, that's strong. Injured characters have less than 35% of their life. Overpower deals bonus damage based on the sum of your current life and fortified life. Okay, overpower feels like it's going to be really OP. Stealth characters cannot be directly targeted by enemies. Using an attack or taking damage will remove stealth. Unstoppable characters have all control impairing effects removed and prevented. And vulnerable enemies take 20% increased damage. Those are the status
3
effects.
years. Still going strong.
So Lunging Strike does 30% increased damage and heals you for 2% max life when damaging a healthy enemy. So you probably just get it on the first strike. Thanks, Jay Quellen. Unless it's like a boss, you maybe get a few. Critical strikes with Lunging Strike grant you berserking for 1.5 seconds. And again, berserk is 25% increased damage and 30% increased movement speed. And Lunging Strike also inflicts 21% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Interesting. I feel like Lunging Strike, maybe you just do like a single hit and then you swap into Frenzy. It feels like of the spells, and this is one thing for sure as well. These are all your generators right here. Everything else is going to cost Fury. So you have to use one of these 4 skills. This is a bludgeoning weapon. This is a slashing weapon. This is dual-wielded weapons. And lunging doesn't seem like it has one. So you do have the arsenal in which you can, I guess, have your different sets if you want. But yeah, it seems like you'll essentially just, I guess you could dual wield bludgeoning weapons. And then you'd be able, or dual wield slashing weapons. Yeah, so then you could have flay. So it gives you, you know, essentially you're just going to like not use one of them probably. But again, you'll probably, with all the points you're going to be spending, you're probably just going to go into one of these, right? Like I'm just going to go max frenzy and enhanced frenzy and combat frenzy. And then that's just going to be that, and I'll just use that. Cool. Hammer of the Ancients. Fury costs 35. Requires 2-handed bludgeoning weapon. So there definitely is kind of trees that you're going up, even though it's not specifically set like that. You know, because you have like, here's your, you know, generators, right? And we'll have like flay, and this is slashing weapons. And then you'll have like bash, and this is bludgeoning weapons. And then we'll have, what's the 2-hand? You know, frenzy. Right, whatever. And then you take this trip down here to the next area. And down here you have core skills.
JYMHEY.
But then like that skill right there, Hammer of the Ancients. Ham of Ancients is two-handed. No, this is two single hand. And this is two-handed bludgeoning. So right here, if you're going to use Hammer of the Ancients, really Bash would kind of be your only weapon prior to that, right? Thanks, Gymnasium. Because I guess since you have the weapon arsenal, that's how you do it, right? Because you can have up to the 4 weapons. Yeah, so that's it. Okay. So because you have the arsenal, you're going to have, you know, on your main hand, 2 swords. Those are swords. And then on your offhand, you'll have, you know, a big old like hammer or something. So then you'll be able to use those, and it'll auto swap, I believe. Okay. Otherwise, I was like, that'll just lock you in really hard. Slam your hammer down with the Fury of the Ancients, dealing 59% of damage to a concentrated area. Jeez, those things just melted. Enhance, gain 3% more fury for 5 seconds for each enemy damaged by Hammer of the Ancients. Stacking up to 10 times. Gain 3% more fury. So that is that saying after this, if I then use a generator, then I gain more? After overpowering with Hammer of the Ancients, you deal 30% more damage for 2.5 seconds. Overpowering deals bonus damage based on the sum of your current life and fortified life. How are you overpowering with Hammer of the Ancients then? I guess it's just if you hit while you're overpowered, maybe? Hammer of the Ancients deals 1% additional damage for each point of fury you had when using it. Oh, because you can have chance, proc base and stuff. Got it. For each point of fury. I mean, that seems OP as well, right? If this cost 35 fury, just walk up, like, do some, like, high fury build, and you're just gonna... Yeah, knowing the max fury pool will be really important here, but... You only get that boost once, though? No, you don't. You get it another time. You would just lose 35%, but if you have, like, 100, you could do, like, 100% and then 65... or 55... Wait, 65%? That's still nice, and you can always generate in between with a couple slashes or something. I think that'll be really strong. Rend, also 35. Physical damage, requires slashing weapon. Cleave enemies in front of you, dealing 13% damage and inflicting 101% bleed damage over 5 seconds. It's a pretty bad preview, but okay. Okay, so it's a big old cleave. Dealing direct damage with Rend extends the duration of vulnerable on enemies by 2 seconds. And again, vulnerable is they take 20% increased damage. Ren deals 12% increased bleeding damage to enemies that are already bleeding. But it has the times 12. Direct damage with Ren grants just plus 12. Okay. 4 fury per enemy hit. Up to a maximum of 20 fury. Nice. Whirlwind. Gain 1 fury each time Whirlwind deals direct... Oh, Whirlwind rapidly attacks surrounding enemies for 12% damage. Gain 1 fury each time Whirlwind deals direct damage to an enemy, or 3 fury against elite enemies. There's 20 per second. After using Whirlwind for 2 seconds, Whirlwind deals 30% increased damage until it is canceled. Wow. Also, let's watch the Fury spend. This isn't costing him any Fury right now. And I'm really curious why. Does it even go down a little bit? It does, ever so slightly. I hope that's a God mode cheating. It drained you a lot? Okay. While using a slashing weapon, Whirlwind also inflicts 26% bleed damage over 5 seconds. And double swing. Dual wielded weapon. Sweep your weapons from opposite directions, dealing 38% damage with each weapon. Enemies caught in the center are damaged by both. Whoa. Whoa. That actually looks really cool. If double swing damages a stunned or knocked down enemy, gain 25 fury. Wow. So you get the whole cost back if the enemy is stunned or knocked down. Hitting an enemy with both hits of double swing makes them vulnerable for a second. Casting double swing while berserking grants 2 additional seconds of berserking. Infinite berserk. It seems like if you're in the middle of a fight. Upheaval. Tear into the ground with your weapon and fling debris forward, dealing 73% damage. It is a cool attack. Costs 40 fury. Upheaval has a 20% chance to stun all enemies. It damages for 2.5 seconds. Wow. If it deals 2 or more damage to 2 or more enemies, you gain berserking for 2 seconds, or 3 seconds if it deals damage to 4. Also nice. Dealing direct damage to an enemy with a skill that is not upheaval causes your next cast of upheaval to deal 8% increased damage, stacking up to 10 times? Oh my god. So yeah. It seems like upheaval is something that you'll just throw on. Plus you're getting berserk and everything. Man, you're going to get some big old finishers from this. That'll be a huge like finisher there. I'm thinking like double swing, get the generation, get the berserking because you're casting. And then just upheaval to smash them. Defensive skills. So this is the next tree. Ground Stomp, 16-second cooldown. It looks like it doesn't cost any fury. Smash the ground, dealing 10% damage and stunning surrounding enemies for 3 seconds. Oh, wow. So you can automatically stun them and then have like... No, where's the one about the stunned? If double swing damages stunned enemy, gain 25 fury. Nice. Definitely some combos here. Good. Increase ground stomp's duration by 1 second. Oh my god. 4 seconds of stun. Ground stomp generates 25 fury. Reduces the cooldown of your ultimate skill by 1 second for each enemy damaged by ground stomp. Meh. See how low the cooldowns are for that. Iron Skin, 14 seconds. Steel yourself, gaining a barrier which blocks all damage types that absorbs 50% of your missing life for 5 seconds. And that blocks all damage. Wow. 14-second cooldown to block all damage. Up to 50% of your missing life. That's insane. Iron Skin absorbs 10% more missing life. While it's active, restore life equal to 10% of barrier's original amount per second. Or it grants 9% base life as fortified, double this amount if cast while below 50% life. Thanks, Ruffalo. Challenging Shout, 25 seconds. Taunt nearby enemies and gain 40% damage reduction for 8 seconds. While Challenging Shout is active, gain 20% bonus max life. While it's active, you gain 3 fury each time you take damage. Whoa. While Challenging Shout is active, gain thorns equal to 50% of your maximum life. Previously, in that one skill, that one generator, it was like gain 4 thorns. And now this is 50% of your maximum life? That could be like thousands of thorns, right? I'm just very curious about those values. How one gains you up to 20 thorns, and this gets you 50% max life. Okay. Rallying Cry, 25 seconds. Bellow a Rallying Cry, granting allies 30% increased movement speed and 50% increased resource generation for 6 seconds. It grants Unstoppable, which is where you lose all those effects. All effects removed and prevented. Rallying Cry grants 25 Fury, and you gain 50% increased resource generation from Rallying Cry. Wow. Rallying Cry grants 10% base life as Fortify. While it's active, you gain an additional 2% base life as Fortify each time you take or deal direct damage. So this seems like a great way to just get Fortify. Thanks, Thamada. Brawling skills. Bellow a mighty warcry. You and nearby allies deal 50% increased damage for 15% increased damage for 8 seconds. All right, and that's 25 seconds. Warcry grants you Berserking for 3 seconds. Warcry grants 28% base life as Fortify. Oh my gosh. If at least 4 enemies are nearby when Warcry is cast, its damage bonuses increase by 15%. Also nice. Kick. Charges 2. Charge cooldown 17 seconds. Throw a powerful kick that deals 19% damage and knocks back enemies in front of you. Enemies who are knocked back into terrain take an additional 57% damage and are stunned for 3 seconds. Wow. So that'll be really strong if you kick something into terrain. He just kicks them off the cliff, so it doesn't even matter. Kick makes its enemies... It damages vulnerable for 4 seconds. Kicked enemies, and remember, vulnerable is 20% increased damage. Kicked enemies deal 54% damage to enemies they collide with while being knocked back. Enemies damaged this way are knocked down for 2 seconds. If kick damages an enemy, it consumes all of your fury and deals an additional 21% damage per 10 fury spent. Kick no longer knocks back enemies. So if we're assuming 100 fury, that's 210% additional damage. Huh. Barb is now a Kixen. But all your fury will be gone, so you'll need to then have some quick generator and then just have massive... That'll probably end up being OP. Or it'll end up being complete garbage and worthless. One of the two. It depends what items exist with affixes for generation of fury. Leap forward and slam down, doing 34% damage and knocking back surrounding enemies on impact. You can easily double your fury, like 200 plus. Oh my god, that's going to be so insane. Can you crit on a kick? Oh, okay, there's our leap. It's cool you can leap down the terrain. If leap doesn't damage enemies, its cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds. Feels like a lame upgrade. Enemies damaged by leap are slowed by 50% for 5 seconds. That's actually pretty big. 5 seconds slow. If leap damages at least one enemy, gain 40 fury. This is big right there. Become unstoppable and rush forward, pushing enemies with you, then swinging through them for 26% damage and knocking them back. That seems pretty fun. Kind of silly looking, though, isn't it? Like, you just kind of, like, casually push this guy. Enemies who are knocked back into terrain take 16% damage and are stunned for 3 seconds. 17-second cooldown. Damaging enemies with charge makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. Reduce charge cooldown by 3 seconds if it knocks back an enemy into terrain. 16% damage we're assuming is just of the weapon damage, but it may just be of total damage. It feels like there's just like attack power and such in the game, and so it's maybe just 16% of that. Still trying to figure that out. Weapon mastery skills. It's weapon damage plus 16%. Okay. Cooldown 15 seconds. Attempt a killing strike dealing 126% damage to enemies in front of you. If this kills an enemy, the cooldown is reset. Oh, this is going to be so broken. That's going to be so broken. Deathblow deals 100% increased damage to bosses. If Deathblow damages at least one enemy, gain 20 fury. If Deathblow damages at least one enemy, gain berserking for 3 seconds. Rupture. Skewer enemies in front of you, dealing 14% damage and rip or open out, damaging enemies for their total bleeding amount. And then removing all bleeding damage from them. Ats, thank you. Their total bleeding amount. Well, that's confusing. I guess it's just all the bleeding happens at once, but still, their total bleeding amount is interesting. Yeah, you just consume the blood dot.
H.
Okay. If an enemy dies while being skewered by Rupture, then reset its cooldown. Enemies who survive take 20% increased bleeding damage for the next 8 seconds. Jesus. Enemies killed by Rupture heal you for 15% of your maximum life. Killing enemies with rupture increases your attack speed by 20% for 4 seconds. Thank you, Law and Oil. Steel Grasp. Throw out a trio of chains, 2 charges, 11 seconds. That deals 24% damage and pulls in enemies. It also makes enemies vulnerable for 2.5 seconds. If Steel Grasp damages an enemy, gain Berserking. Steel Grasp gains an additional charge. And ultimate skills. 50 seconds. Call upon 3 ancients to aid you in battle for 6 seconds. Korlik leaps at enemies, dealing 8% damage and swings his weapon in a frenzy. Talak spins and whirlwinds. Maddock upheaves the ground. So Maddock's not throw barb. Okay. This skill again. While Call of Ancients is active, gain 10% bonus attack speed and 10% increased damage. Each of the Ancients gains an additional power. You gain 10 Fury each time Korlik damages an enemy. Enemies are slowed with Whirlwind and 30% chance to stun enemies when using Upheaval. Wow. Iron Maelstrom. 60 seconds. Requires full arsenal of weapons. Activate to attach a chain to your 2-handed bludgeoning weapon and slam the ground, dealing 63% damage and stunning them for 2 seconds. Reactivate a second time to attach a chain to your 2-handed slashing weapon and swipe it in front of you, dealing 21% damage and 126% bleed damage. Reactivate a final time to attach a chain to your dual weapon wield weapons and swing them around, dealing 34% damage per hit. I don't know if I like this skill. This is... what the heck? Gain 10% increased crit strike chance and 20% increased crit damage. Dealing direct damage to an enemy after swapping weapons reduces Iron Maelstrom's cooldown by 1 second. Wow, so you'll actually be able to reduce the cooldown a lot on this, because you can just keep swapping back and forth on skills. Wrath of the Berserker. Gain Berserking and Unstoppable for 5 seconds. Wow. For the next 10 seconds, dealing direct damage with basic skills. Grants Berserking for 5 seconds. Holy cow. While Wrath of Berserker is active, gain 20% increased movement speed and Fury generation by 30%. While it's active, every 50 Fury you spend increases Berserk's damage bonus by 25%. I also believe this is going to be overpowered. This is Diablo 3 as well. And that's going to be S tier guaranteed. Basic skills, passives. Basic skills generate 5, 10, 15% more fury when using 2-handed weapons. Like a hit, your core skills have 10, 20, 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable. Gain 2, 4, and 6 thorns. Also gain 2 thorns for each 2 bonus maximum life you have. 2 thorns for each 2 bonus maximum life. Tough as nails, increase your thorns by 20, 40, 60%. Gain 5, 10, 15% of maximum life. Damage reduction against elites. Movement speed increase. Reduce the duration of control and pairing effects. It doesn't feel like you really need that because you can just make yourself unstoppable with that charge anyways. Gain 4, 8, 12% damage reduction while berserking. Berserking's just going to be so overpowered. There's just going to be builds you're just going to be berserking 100% of the time, and it's just going to be disgusting. When a brawling skill damages at least one enemy, gain berserking for 1, 2, 3 seconds. Exactly. While berserking, fury generation is increased. Booming voice, shout skill durations increase 10, 20, 30. Your shout skills cause enemies to deal less damage. Up to 24%. Your shouts heal allies 1, 2, 3% their max life per second. You deal 9% increased damage to close enemies. Gain 2, 4, 6 distant damage reduction. This is the whole close enemies and stuff as well. 5, 9, 13% damage increased against mobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. And up to 23% increased damage against injured enemies, which that'd be really good with that death blow and stuff. Every time a monster gets below 35% with this and whatever, your berserk, you can probably just kill them and keep death blowing everything. Dealing direct damage with weapon mastery causes your next core skill to make enemies vulnerable for 4.5 seconds. Jesus. Your bleeding affects slow enemies. So now you can just guarantee a 30% slow every time you hit them with a bleed. That's huge. And increased damage to vulnerable. Each time you take direct damage, gain base life as fortify. Increase the damage reduction gained while you're fortified by an additional 9%. While fortified, you gain over 50% of your... For over 50% of your max life, you deal increased damage. Attack speed is increased. Increased max fury by 369. Each time you swap weapons, gain fury? Whoa. Yeah, fury generation. And heals you for 2, 4, 6% of your max life for each 100 fury spent. Which makes me think you'll have multiple hundreds, which means some of those things, like that kick, you'll be doing 1000% damage or something, right? While using 200 weapons, you deal increased crit strike damage. Increased damage if they're stunned or vulnerable for bludgeoning. Your overpower deals, wow, a lot of damage there. Lucky hit. Skills using bludgeoning weapons have a chance to stun enemies. Or up to this chance when using it two-handed. 45% chance is big. You may only select one of the following. Increase Berserk's maximum duration by 5 seconds and increase its damage bonus by 25%. Jeez. I like I said, there's going to be builds where you're just nonstop in Berserk. It's going to be crazy. Dealing direct damage with a 200 bludgeoning, 200 slashing, or dual-wielded weapon grants 10% increased damage for 6 seconds. While all three are bonus, you gain an additional 15% increased damage. So this is like the sorceress or the wizard, whatever, in Diablo 3. The Tal Rasha wizard or whatever. Unbridled Rage. Core skills deal 135% increased damage, but cost 100% more. And Gushing Wounds. Killing a bleeding enemy creates an explosion that inflicts 12% bleed damage over 5 seconds. Stat effects and keywords. That's all that stuff. Wow. I feel like the Barb is going to be insanely strong. And there's a lot of stuff that feels like Diablo 3 within that we've seen. Barbarian Dismount. Each class comes with a unique dismount ability. Okay. That's a cool ability. Slamming the ground. Baba is used. Great. There's the arsenal. And depending on the requirement, he'll use the correct weapon for a certain skill. So you don't have to do any weapon swapping. Barbarian item slots in Diablo 4. Okay. Why does he have a bow? None of his skills can use a... That's not right. There we go. That's the Barbarian. That's, yeah, I was going to say, that's a rogue. Here we can also see stats. Strength increases skill damage by 4%. Increases defense by 81. Intelligence increases all resistances by 2.1%. Willpower increases resource generation by 2.75%. Improves healing received by 5.5%. So definitely willpower to get that resource generation stuff up. And increases crit strike chance by 2.75% and chance to dodge attacks. And it looks like it's different because here intelligent increases skill damage. So different for every class there. Yeah, so the primary stats are different. You can see intelligence has no primary stat for the barbarian, just the resistance there, but the other ones do.